Hello, Latumway. So once again, I came across a statement in one of your videos that I had some comments I wanted to share. And if it's not terribly inconvenient, I would, of course, appreciate any form of feedback that you can give me. So basically, you said that taking the morning after pill or killing a fetus is not the same thing as killing a human being. And you listed 3 reasons why you felt that this was the case. Now, I'm going to address each of those reasons in turn, but before I do that, I want to clarify a couple points. First off, the morning after pill is not an abortion. The actual abortion pill is called the RU486. The morning after pill is basically the same exact thing as a regular birth control pill, but it has a higher dosage of the same contents so that you don't actually have to take it ahead of time. Second off, scientifically speaking, a human life is formed at conception, and there is universal consensus on this simple fact in the scientific community. Now, to demonstrate that zygotes, embryos, and fetuses do in fact constitute whole, individual, living human specimens, I'm going to list a series of quotations and citations in the information bar, and you can peruse those at your own leisure. So to address the 3 points with which you justify the position that fetuses are inferior to the rest of us humans, you say that this is the case because they are not conscious, because they are not able to feel pain, and because they have not yet experienced life. So I want to address each of these points individually, and we'll start with consciousness. This cannot be the defining attribute of a person. This cannot be what makes us morally significant or what gives us a right to life for a number of reasons. Specifically, if that were the case, it would lead to conclusions that we know are false. For example, there are general anesthetics out there which cause the brain to completely shut down. And these are frequently used for patients undergoing very extensive surgeries. So if consciousness is what qualifies us as persons, what gives us a right to life, and what makes us morally significant, then it logically follows that a patient on general anesthetics is not morally significant, is not a person, and does not have a right to life. Because they have no sentience, they have no consciousness, they have no thought, no volition, no personality. None of these things are attached to an individual on general anesthetics. For all extensive pragmatic purposes, this is a hunk of human meat. Yet we also know that it is just as morally reprehensible to kill this individual as it is to kill an individual who is not on general anesthetics. We know that this individual has not stopped existing as a person, and that his or her moral right to life is in no way mitigated by the fact that their brain has been shut down. So I suppose you could say that at some point in the past, this was a conscious living individual, which sort of moves into the second point, that the fetus has not yet experienced life. Now, I've demonstrated that the fetus has experienced life in the sense that in the past it's gone through the biological process of life, but I think that you mean experience in a more cognitive sense. You're not saying experience like the computer experienced a malfunction. You're saying experience like, that was a great experience. I'm glad I went to Russia. But if you say that this is what defines us as persons, that this is what gives us our moral significance, or that this is what gives us a right to life, well, we once again lead to some very absurd conclusions that we know aren't true. Because while I can say that this patient on general anesthetics at some point in the past has consciously experienced life, I can also say the exact same thing of King Tut's corpse. Because at one point in the past, at some time in history, this corpse was a conscious, living human being. Now, it's dead now, but it does have that history of having experienced life. So you can maybe play around with the tenses and say that it is currently experiencing life that makes us persons with a right to life. But then the person on general anesthetics doesn't qualify for that status. But we know that this is a person, so that can't be the case. You could say that experiencing life in the future is what makes us persons. Well, that's the potential personhood argument. You say that because the zygote fetus or embryo will consciously experience life, killing it, stealing its chance to do so, is a violation of its right to life. It is morally tantamount to killing a person. That's the exact same thing. And you seem to challenge that notion. In your video, you were very repulsed by the notion. So that can't be what you're saying. And this other requisite also kind of crumbles. Which leaves us with the ability to feel pain. Now, I really have no idea how anybody who is not a sociopath can possibly say that the ability to feel pain is a requisite for personhood. Because, of course, once again, our patient on general anesthetics cannot feel pain. That's one of the reasons why we use it. And then we also know that there are people with genetic disorders which render them unable to experience the sense of touch. They don't feel pain. But they're still persons, and killing these individuals is still violating a perfectly legitimate and legally protected right to life, as it should be, and it's not any more or less morally reprehensible than killing somebody who can feel pain. The ability to feel pain, a history of having experienced life, and consciousness are completely irrelevant to whether or not we qualify as philosophically and morally significant persons, or whether or not we should have a legally protected right to life. Now, there was one other sort of side point where you said that there are different types of life. Well, in a sort of tautological sense, this isn't true. There's a very specific definition for the term life. And, well, the fetus, embryo, or zygote is in fact experiencing that. It is a living organism. But when you say life in this context, what I think you mean is the experience of undergoing personhood, of existing as a person. But this is essentially restating some of the points you made previously, and I can address this notion simply by copying and pasting content already put out in this video into this context. So I think that I've pretty thoroughly addressed your points, and I am very eager to get your feedback.